alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So, when we talk about monotheism and polytheism, then the first question that comes to mind is what came before? Were people monotheists or were people polytheists, and then with time they became monotheists? So if you think about it this way, the first man and the first woman, Adam and his wife Eve, we know that they both worshipped Allah. They both worshipped God. And after they ate from the tree and they were punished and they were sent to earth, they continued to worship Allah. Okay, so worshipping Allah alone continued, like Adam and Eve worshipped Allah, and then their children worshipped Allah, the children of their children worshipped Allah, and so on and so forth. So based on this, we know that monotheism definitely came before polytheism. And I'll tell you why this question is important, but I'll tell you why later on, not now. So monotheism continued on earth for 1,000 years. So since Adam alayhi salam, Adam, and then 1,000 years until Noah or Nuh alayhi salam. Okay? So from Adam until Noah, 1,000 years, and for 1,000 years, people worshipped Allah alone. Okay, this is based on an authentic hadith. This number, this exact number, is in authentic hadith, authentic sahih, hadith sahih. And what happened during the time of Noah was that there were 5 men who were very religious. Okay, very religious men. And those men used to teach people to worship Allah and be good and all of that. And then what happened is that those 5 men died. And when they died, people were very sad. Okay? And people were like, what are we going to do now? You know, like they used to sit with those men, and those men used to remind them of Allah, you know, worship Allah and all of that. And people were very saddened by their death. So they were like, let's make statues. Let's make statues of those 5 men. That's exactly what they did. They made 5 statues of those 5 righteous men. And in the beginning, those 5 statues, and let's say with like basically they would put the statue right where they used to sit with that man. So let's say the first statue, his name is Wadda. Okay, so these 5 men are mentioned in the chapter of Noah. Surah Nuh, chapter Noah. You can check it out in the Quran. It's not a big surah. It's like half page and half page, like 1 page total. You know, chapter Noah, Surah Nuh. So their names was Waddan, Suwa'an, Yaghutha, Ya'uqa, Nasra. Okay, so basically they would put the statue of that man right where he used to sit. Okay, so and they would just sit, you know, with that statue, and you know they would just look at that statue and just remember his lessons, remember what he used to tell them and all of that, right? And that continued until that generation died. Now, when the generation that came after, their children or the children of their children, when they came, Shaitan whispered to them, your forefathers made those statues, those 5 statues, because they are your gods. These are your gods, so worship them. And then they started to worship them. And that's how polytheism started on earth. This was the first incident of polytheism on earth. Okay, so we're talking 1,000 years after Adam alayhi salam, all right? Now what happened, as we all know, is Prophet Noah kept, Nuh alayhi salam, he kept calling people to, worship God alone and all of that. And what happened is that, as we all know, not a lot of people listened to him. A lot of people said that, you know, our forefathers were worshipping those statues, so we want to worship them, blah, blah, blah. So Allah ordered Noah to build the ark, right? And to put in it the animals and all the people who believed in him. And very few people actually followed Noah, you know, it was very few people. And then Allah flooded earth, and all the disbelievers died in that flood. Okay, so all the disbelievers died in that flood. That means that polytheism, you know, there was no more polytheism, and then earth was back again to the default. Okay, I'm trying to prove here that monotheism is the default on earth. It's not polytheism. So once the flood stopped and Noah and his people got off the ark, people were monotheists all over again. They worshipped Allah alone. And then over the course of history, the same thing would happen where people would make a statue of a righteous person. It's very important for me that you understand that the statues that people built were not statues of bad people. No, those were people who were good. These were good people in their societies. Okay, and they would build them, like they would make those statues just as a reminder for them, to be good and all of that and to worship Allah alone. And then when that generation would die, the new generation would start to worship those statues. And if we talk about Mecca, when we talk about Mecca, we know that when the Prophet ﷺ was born, we know that there were idols around the Kaaba. Okay, so around the Kaaba there were idols. Now, how did that happen? Now, we know that the Quran mentions that Ibrahim and his son Ismail built the Kaaba, or if you want to say that, the foundations of the Kaaba were already there, and Ibrahim alayhi salam and his son, they just put like bricks on top of that, because there is like a difference among scholars on like who built the Kaaba, was it Ibrahim and Ismail, like Abraham and Ishmael? Or was it before that? By the way, the story of Abraham and his son is mentioned in the Bible. But in the Bible, it says that was his son Isaac, not Ismail. But we know from the Quran that is wrong. It was his son Ismail. And their journey to Mecca is mentioned there. In the Bible, it's mentioned as Becca. You can check that out on Google. Becca, and we know that Becca is the valley where Mecca is. So Mecca is inside Becca. So this is Mecca, and Becca is like the bigger valley where, where Mecca is. And so there is, like I said, there is a difference among scholars as to who was the first person to build Kaaba, And so some scholars say it was Adam alayhi salam when he first came to earth, and there are people who say it's Ibrahim and Ismail. And for me, I believe it was Adam alayhi salam for two reasons. Number one, if you read the ayah in Surah Al-Baqarah, so the story of them, putting those bricks and building it, it's mentioned in Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter of the cow. Baqarah is cow, chapter Al-Baqarah. Al-Baqarah. So if you read that verse, وَإِذْ يَرْفَعُ إِبْرَاهِيمُ الْقَوَاعِدَ مِنَ الْبَيْتِ وَإِسْمَاعِيلُ, if you read that verse, the meaning is not like they are building it from scratch. No, the meaning is like they were putting those bricks on top of something, like the foundation was already there, and they were putting the bricks on top of those, of that foundation, That's one reason why I think it's Adam alayhi salam. And the second reason is that if we know that between Adam and Noah was 1,000 years, we know that this is in 1,000 years, like we said in the hadith. And from Noah to Abraham, I'm not sure it's how many years, but if let's say it's another 1,000, okay, let's just say it's another 1,000. To think that from Adam alayhi salam until Ibrahim alayhi salam there was no place of worship, that doesn't make sense to me at all. Okay, we know that Allah said in the Quran about the Kaaba, إِنَّ أَوَّلَ بَيْتٍ وُضِعَ لِلنَّاسِ لَلَّذِي بِبَكَّةَ. The first place of worship, the first house or like place of worship that was built for people is the one in Becca. Okay, so this word is mentioned here, the same word that is mentioned in the Bible, Becca. So I cannot imagine that there was no place of worship, for all these years, since Adam alayhi salam until Ibrahim alayhi salam. That doesn't make sense to me at all. So I want to talk about Mecca. So we know that Ibrahim alayhi salam, whether he built the Kaaba or it was Adam alayhi salam who built it, but we know that since Abraham alayhi salam, okay, so he worshipped Allah alone. His son worshipped Allah alone, Ismail, and his children and the children of his children, and this continued for a long time. Okay, and think about it this way: when Muhammad ﷺ was born, like I said, there were idols around the Kaaba. Okay, so when did that happen? Well, so here it was monotheism. We're talking monotheism here. Okay, and then this monotheism turned into polytheism. So when did that happen? How did polytheism come to Mecca? How did polytheism start in Mecca? There was this guy, his name is Amr ibn Luhay. Amr ibn Luhay. This man here was a well-respected man in Mecca. People listened to him. And then this guy here, he went to the Levant. We were talking like Syria and those countries, the Levant. The Levant. When this guy went to the Levant, he saw over there that they used to worship idols, and he liked what he saw, So he took those idols back to Mecca. He took those idols back to Mecca, and he told people to worship them. So he put them around the Kaaba, and he told people to worship those idols. And because, like I said, he was a well-respected man among his people, among Quraysh in Mecca, people listened to him and they started to worship those idols, sadly. And this is how polytheism started in Mecca. This was the first incidence of polytheism in Mecca. This is mentioned in an authentic hadith, the story of Amr ibn Luhay. You can check it out. Just write in Google Amr ibn Luhay's story, and you will find that hadith. Now, what I'm trying to prove here is that monotheism started before polytheism. Now, we know that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ came after that, and he started to call people to La ilaha illallah, to worship Allah alone and not to worship those idols. And what I'm trying to prove here was that monotheism came before polytheism, and proving this is so important because in comparative religions, scholars like Western scholars who are not Muslim, they have like different approaches of studying comparative religions, and one of those approaches I think is called like anthropological approach, I guess. And in that approach, what they say is that people were polytheists, like cavemen were polytheists, because you're talking about people who they say that they couldn't talk, they couldn't do anything, like they, how like they like to depict like the first man and the first woman, like they are like some monkeys, like, or at least like it's like they are like a man and a woman, but like very illiterate, stupid, don't know how to talk properly, don't know how to do anything, like pretty much like animals, and I've seen like, I remember it was a movie or what when I was little, where like they would talk to each other in like hoo ha ha, like they couldn't talk. And as Muslims, we know that this is absolutely not true. This is absolutely not true, because in Surah Al-Baqarah, again, chapter of Al-Baqarah, the cow, which is like the second chapter in the Quran, and in the beginning of that chapter, Allah tells us the story of his creation of Adam alayhi salam. And we know that Allah tells us that Allah taught Adam all words. وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا. Okay, so Allah taught Adam alayhi salam the words of everything, like what is this called, what is this called, what is it called. And then he told the angels, he started to ask them, what is this, what is that? And then the angels were like, we don't know, we only know what you taught us. So he told Adam, tell them. And then Adam started to tell them, So we know that Adam was not some stupid guy, some stupid caveman or a monkey who doesn't know how to talk, doesn't have a language or any of that. Subhanallah, this is absolutely not true. So basically, these scholars like to say that the first man and the first woman were polytheists, and as people started to be more modern, as people started to learn how to build houses and be more modern and stuff, they started to evolve. Okay, mark this word, the word evolve. So they evolved from polytheism into monotheism. So instead of worshiping many gods, they started to worship only one God. Okay? And as they evolved more, think about it now, in the time we are now, 2024, now like you have those like spaceships and airplanes and all of that. Now there is more, like, we're evolving more and more. So now we don't need God anymore. Now we go to atheism because we're so strong, we're so amazing. We have those amazing skyscrapers and artificial intelligence and all this amazing stuff. So we don't need God anymore. So now we can move on to atheism. Okay? So here, the first man, who was pretty much like a monkey, he was a polytheist because he was stupid, so he needs different gods. And then as he started to become smarter and smarter, he became monotheist. He just needs one God. This God will help him out, and he will seek when he has a problem. And as man started to evolve and he can use ChatGPT and stuff to solve all his problems, now we don't need any God anymore and we can be atheists. And this is what they're trying to prove here. This is why they say that men, like as human beings, were monkeys and we evolved and all of that. Subhanallah. So next time someone tells you that we evolved from monkeys, you know that that's not true, because you're saying that Adam and Eve were monkeys. Okay, that's one thing. Another thing was I wanted to talk about a polytheism in Mecca. Like what kind of like what was their belief exactly, but I'm not sure if I should make it in this video or the next video. I think I should stop here and make another video, inshallah. So check out my next video for the belief of the people of Mecca. This is very important because a lot of people understand their belief wrong. That's it. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.